Hello, y'all. Welcome back to the BirthFit podcast. I'm Dr. Lindsey Matthews Cantu, and this is episode number 268. And today is all about GBS. Dun 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 dun. Group B Streptococcus. Before we dive in, I want to remind you to go check out our new BirthFit website that launched live last week. And a huge thank you to my team, um, the crew over at Cherry Picked, all brains, work schedules, all the things coming together to really make this happen and to really make the end product something so beautiful, so functional, and so quickly. Like they did it so fast. So thank you to Ruth and Kat on my team and also the girls over at Cherry Picked, Jill and Mackenzie. Um, Y'all, if you go to the website, you'll be able to there's information all at the top. You can check out about us. You can check out information about the next BirthFit certification. The waitlist is open there. So if you are considering this, if you have been considering this, get on the wait list. This is where we open enrollment first, and this is where we share the discount code there. Um, you can also find out about the BirthFit community membership, which is our ongoing membership, weekly live calls. You get access to our resource library, where you get deeper dives. Like right now, we're going to talk about GBS, but on that call, you get, or inside of the membership, we have a call that goes more in depth on this topic, where we ask questions. We talk about practical application. I share a slideshow. You get the PDFs, and it's really applicable for you as a coach or a practitioner to have these tools in your back pocket. So you need to be part of the membership for sure. You can also find information about our fitness programs. These have been around a while now since we moved everything virtual in 2020. We've got prenatal programs, postpartum programs. These programs have been done by thousands of women and nothing but great feedback and feedback, we constantly that we receive, and we're constantly upgrading our program and our experience. Um, so one of the things we've evolved over the last couple years is that all of our training days, no matter what program it is, literally 45 minutes or less. And you can do it with minimal equipment. Yes, you can have all the equipment, like barbells, sandbags, sleds, all the things, and do our programs. And you can also have minimal equipment. So that's what's really cool about our programs. Then you have resources. We've really upgraded this section of our website. Um, we have the blogs, which have been there forever. We've got a link to the podcast, so if you want to listen to it, watch it directly from our website, do that. But we've got two new options here. We've got a digital shop where you can purchase PDFs, you can purchase ebooks, you can purchase master classes. So these are like one-off products that you can start to get a sample of maybe the community or the certification, how we do things. And then we have a page of products we love, which is literally all the supplements we love, other digital courses we love. And that's really a great resource. And the last thing I want to point out is our directory. This is where you can find BirthFit coaches, BirthFit practitioners that have chosen to be on the directory. They've gone through our course, they've become certified, and they're on our directory. And you can find them right there. And it's a beautiful directory and easy to function. So go to our website, our new website, birthfit.com, and check it out. I would love that for you. And I would love that for us. And if you see anything, we're still coming through it. Any grammar errors, anything like that, please let us know. All right, so one thing I want to share about GBS is my personal story. My water started leaking at 36 weeks. I was staying at a Airbnb with my sister. We were about to have a girls' weekend. I woke up that Friday morning and I was like, am I? No, I'm not peeing. This is my water leaking. Oh my goodness, this can't be happening, but it is happening. So here we go. Um, and at the time, I was working with a licensed midwife, a certified professional midwife, who, by the bounds of her license, could not attend a home birth prior to 37 weeks here in the state of Texas. Please note, inside of our certification, we talk a lot about license and who you choose to be in relation with. And I'll give an example. If for this midwife, she's choosing to be in relation with whatever board is governing her. I, as a licensed chiropractor, am choosing to be in relation with the Texas Board of Chiropractors. So there's rules and regulations that come with that. Um, if you're in relation with a significant other, an other, there's things that come with that. So, it's not good or bad, it's just what it is. So when she informed us that she could not attend our home birth at prior to 37 weeks, we were a week prior. Um, her first move was to kind of scramble, and I still love this midwife. Like we have a great relationship. Um, and I think she scrambled, right? Because she really wanted this beautiful birth experience for me. And I think she could see it kind of going out the window as I was leaking at 36 weeks. Um, one of her first things that she said was, "Oh my God, we haven't done your GBS test yet." And my response was, "It don't matter." Perfect English. Um, and I knew without a doubt that I was not going to do antibiotics, no matter where I was. So she asked me if I'd be open to swabbing myself, so she could complete her paperwork and, kind of complete all the things. And I said, sure. Um, and it came back positive, which I kind of already knew, just knowing me and my health history. I kind of anticipated that. I don't know why. But also, I informed her like I wasn't going to do antibiotics. So she basically told me, I can't, I'm legally bound by my license. I can't attend your home birth. I must refer you to the hospital. And that's where, as a 40-year-old woman, GBS positive, 36 weeks, water's leaking, I was checking every clinical checkbox. I was high risk. So I knew if I walked into that hospital, I would be labeled, I would be managed, I would be intervened upon. And same for our baby. We would not be supported, not supported in our desires, our wishes, our personal health and wellness philosophies, not at all. So that's where our big choices came in. And, at that moment, we were prepared for either doing a birth, kind of like off grid, free birth style, or I had one other friend that was a certified nurse midwife in the state of Texas, and she did out of hospital births. And that's, I reached out to her because as a CNM in Texas, they can attend out of hospital births 36 weeks and on, where a certified professional midwife has to wait till 37 weeks. I'd just seen her at dance class the day before, and I reached out to her. I was like, "Hey, by the way, are you in town? I might be in labor. Could use some support." It all worked out. She attended my birth. It was beautiful. It was great. I gave birth on our back porch in a little tub, and my husband's hands received our baby. She was 6 pounds, 6 ounces, and she was born in our natural habitat, in our natural biome. The environment that she was created in, she was born in. She was designed to meet us there. That's how I really truly feel it's meant to be. And this is not a story of luck. I don't believe that at all. It's a story about informed sovereignty. And it's the reason BIRTHFIT coaches, practitioners, Everybody needs to be equipped to hold conversations like this. So, what is GBS? Well, Group B Streptococcus is a common bacteria found in the gut and vaginal flora of adults. It's largely harmless in healthy adults. Somewhere between 15 and 30% of pregnant women are colonized at any given time. Most never know it, most never have a problem. The issues come up during birth, where GBS can be passed to the baby, and in a very small percentage of cases, cause early onset sepsis, pneumonia, or meningitis in the first week of life. So, I want to just kind of paint this picture for you. Um, there's, Let me paint this picture of numbers because this is where, like, I think things get kind of like skewed and out of proportion. Um, as I said, 15 to 30% of pregnant women are colonized with GBS. Of that, 50% of, so 50% of the 15 to 30% colonized mothers transmit it to their baby. 1 to 2% of that 50% of that 15 to 30%, 1 to 2% of those babies develop an invasive disease. Then 2 to 3% of that 1 to 2% are term infants with the disease who die within this modern care. So this, yes, it's a risk. That is a real risk and a very different picture, though, when you start to look at the numbers. Um, and I hope that makes sense to you. Like 15 to 30% of the pregnant women colonized with GBS. So just in general, there's 30% of pregnant women walking around with GBS, but only 50% of those mothers transmit it to their baby. And then only 1 to 2% of that 50% develop a disease. And only 2 to 3% of that 1 to 2% die with the modern care that we have today. So the other thing I want to point out is gestational age changes a lot. Mortality risk is not uniform, and this matters when you're just having this conversation. 2 to 3% is the case for fatality rate for term infants with early onset GBS disease. 19 to 30% case fatality rate for preterm infants. So 37 weeks is considered term. Keep that in mind. Okay, so there's two different ways that countries, or it's really countries approach GBS. Um, the US does a universal screening, and it's the US, it's Canada, it's Australia, Germany, France, and I think Japan. I could be wrong. But the universal screening is a culture swab, so like a vaginal swab at 35 to 37 weeks. And then with a positive test, antibiotics are given in labor. And those IV antibiotics are penicillin or ampicillin. The other strategy is a risk-based approach. This is historically in the UK, parts of Europe, low resource settings. Um, and there's no routine swab. Antibiotics only if intrapartum risk factors are present. So fever, prolonged rupture of membranes, preterm birth, prior baby with GBS, or GBS bacteria. The World Health Organization recommends both. Both are legitimate alternative, and neither is fringe. Both strategies are evidence-based. So just let that sink in. Yes, universal screening plus intrapartum antibiotics has shown a roughly 70 to 80% reduction in the early onset of GBS. But remember, we're talking small numbers, right? We're talking a reduction of the 50% of the 30% that we're actually transmitted to. So it's wild. But the trade-offs, so the trade-offs are what I was concerned about. The antibiotic exposure. First of all, I'm allergic to penicillin, and the other antibiotics don't seem to be effective. Um, a significant percentage of laboring women receiving IV penicillin are concerned about microbiome disruption, both for baby and mother. And that's a very significant concern when you start to think about gut, natural, our gut microbiome and the health, our long-term health. For instance, those with obesity and metabolic issues definitely have gut issues. Large population data have not yet shown a clear resistance signal from current GBS regimens, but the microbiome conversation is not resolved, y'all. It's literally just getting started. The universal screening is over treatment by design. It's intentionally designed for sensitivity, not specificity. And many, many colonized women have had healthy babies without antibiotics, myself included. Um, okay, the test limitations. Colonization status can change. A negative swab at 36 weeks does not guarantee negative status at birth. A positive status does not mean the baby will be infected. Babies born at home in their parents' natural biome are encountering a microbiome they're designed to meet, instead of one that is in a hospital setting or a birth center where it's very medical. Um, this context belongs in the conversation, I strongly believe. So if a client declines GBS testing, they're usually labeled as positive, even if they decline it. So there's kind of an automatic, like, especially if they're in the Western medicine setting, they're probably going to be encouraged very forcefully to do antibiotics. Um, they also might check GBS, and GBS might have been checked earlier in pregnancy in their urine. If that was the case and then they didn't do a swab, they're still going to be considered positive. Um, yeah, so they also might just look at, is there a fever? Does mom have a fever, baby have a fever? How long has the membranes been ruptured? Preterm birth prior to 37 weeks. Um, those are some risk factors they're looking at. But yeah, it's interesting the way the US does their universal screening because, as I pointed out the numbers, but there's not even, um, there's no conversation around the natural microbiome, the gut health, um, and I think, that's a conversation worth having. Um, let's see, did I hit everything for you in this? Um, You will, like I shared before, the case for universal screening, the benefits people will say is 70 to 80% reduction. But again, look at the numbers. The WHO, the World Health Organization, says that both the risk-based approach and the universal screening are legitimate. Um, so there's that. I did mention myself as being somebody that's allergic to penicillin. The other alternatives exist are cefazolin, clindamycin, and vancomycin. But like clindamycin has a an allergy, high risk for allergies, and it requires every 8 hours in labor. Um, and somebody, gosh, I forget, I think requires a lab test to test GBS strain for clindamycin susceptibility at the time of culture. Vancomycin is weight-based dosing. Um, and then I'm not too sure on the other ones, but those are some alternatives if you do choose to go that route. Um, I think especially growing up in the 80s, antibiotics were handed out like candy. And, the microbiome disruption is a conversation we need to have right alongside this GBS conversation. Um, I think that's a big one. It's over treatment. The universal screening is over treatment rather than specific individualized care. Um, the protocol of the universal screening catches almost all, but at the cost of treating many who did not need exposure to antibiotics at all. Um, so those are some things I think are really important. Um, yes, if you decline the test, we talked about this, you might have a urine test. They're going to consider, did any of your other babies have invasive GBS issues, fever, prolonged rupture, preterm birth. Those are things that are going to come up. Um, so these are things I want you to think about, with this GBS conversation. I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way. Um, I think this is where you, the individual, has to be really clear on your personal health and wellness philosophy. And that's where I got really clear. Um, I have not been inside of the Western medicine setting in quite some time. Um, I have not taken an antibiotic since probably my early 20s. So it had been almost 20 years. Um, and, once I became educated and informed about antibiotics, it was like, wow, these should not, personally, I don't think they should be handed out like candy. And if you do need to take an antibiotic, make sure it's a bacterial infection. Because some antibiotics are handed out for viruses, and that's crazy, but that's just lazy and ignorant. But I think they need to be have a little bit of reverence around using the antibiotics. Um, so yeah. If I were pregnant again, this is a question I got. Would I do the GBS test? No. Absolutely not. I would take care of myself. I would be healthy just like I was before. And I think the GBS test, you know, that 24 hours of my water leaking and then labor starting was a little more stressful than it needed to be. I'm not saying it was stressful overall because we kept the vibes chill, we were at our home, we were in nature. But I think it added just one layer, one dimension that didn't need to be there. Um, when I already knew the answer. Um, I said yes to help somebody else complete their charts, and I didn't need to do that. So I hope this episode gives you a little information, gives you a little insight about GBS. Um, I think there's so many different angles you could look at it, but for me personally, it's not something that um, it's not a fear that I'm going to buy into that um, the Western medicine world just throws the propaganda out there for it. So I hope this gives you a little more light, a little more information, and I want you to always make the best decisions for you and your family, the most intuitively guided, informed decisions for you. All right, y'all. Chat next week. Have a great week. Be sure to check out our website.